Hey everyone, welcome to RevOps Demos That Don't Suck, where we do demos of revenue technologies so you don't have to. We like to feature at the RevOps Co-op our software partners on a short demo in a recorded environment like this to show off what they can do, answer any RevOps related questions, and run through a use case or two. So hopefully this is a video that will help you in your next technical evaluation. So we'll jump right into it. Today I have Aaron Gondek from Pigment. Aaron, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us how excited you are to be here.
Hey everyone, I am very pumped to be here today and show you guys how you can use Pigment to improve your RevOps planning process. I'm a solutions consultant, so I love all things planning and modeling, and excited to kind of show you how that can work in Pigment today.
Nice. Yeah, I'm glad that we're getting a solutions-oriented person on the call here. And so let's make sure that this is as RevOps focused as possible.
Perfect, will do.
All righty. So first question in the question bank is, what is this product? What does it do? And why does it exist?
Sure. So Pigment was founded a couple of years ago by Eleanor and Roman, and really they both came together because they realized that in the planning space, companies were still reverting and relying on spreadsheets. The tools that were out there were, really rigid and just weren't meeting the needs. And then the spreadsheets, companies were struggling with scale and keeping up with all of the disruption and changes that were happening. So they came together and came up with Pigment, and really the focus of the company is to help other companies plan and model their business, and be able to adapt and react quickly, especially in today's ever-changing environment. And really the key foundations of the tool is that it stays simple, but it's also powerful enough. So you're able to model out what if scenarios really quickly, and business users are able to set up the tool, but also maintain it after that initial implementation. And
Gotcha.
also one other thing too is that it's the goal is to be a centralized business platform. So finance, sales, HR, marketing, they want everyone on the platform.
Got it. So very good for RevOps. And I can say
Exactly.
from experience that my CEO is the Excel person between the two of us, but we have a very annoying and complicated Excel spreadsheet, or rather it's in
Exactly.
Google Sheets that it's trying
Right.
to do just this.
Exactly. Exactly. You're not alone. So
Solid. Alrighty. So next question is, why should RevOps people care about this?
yeah, so exactly like you just mentioned, a lot of RevOps teams are, struggling with really complicated spreadsheets and a lot of different versions of those spreadsheets. So really we want Pigment to come in and help make this an easier process, since especially because RevOps is very iterative and there's a lot of different subjective inputs. So having a place where you can kind of store those, use data to like make better decisions, is really sort of the key with Pigment, and really kind of breaking down those silos between those groups that I just mentioned. So each team can be on the platform, you can collaborate, tag different people in comments. You don't have to email spreadsheets back and forth. And then also from the data perspective, you're not focusing on manually, manipulating and updating data to make sure you always have the latest information. Everyone can work off of that same source of truth. And then really what that allows companies to do is kind of drive the, faster target setting for those reps. Reps have the buy-in, they have the visibility into, why you maybe set their quotas in that way. And managers also can help, focus on top accounts, understand what the priorities are and how they're tracking towards those top-down targets as well.
Wow. So yeah, that's got RevOps written all over it. Breaking down
Exactly.
silos, providing visibility, enhancing collaboration, like absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
Cool.
Cool. So the next one, we may be repeating ourselves, but why do people in RevOps use your product? And feel
Mhm.
free to provide, some, a couple examples of where this product shines, or this platform.
Sure. Yeah, so I can actually just use this time to kind of jump into the product and show
Yeah.
you maybe like the top 3 examples or use cases of where our customers are currently using Pigment, and just kind of walk through kind of what that could look like. So the most common use cases right now for us in the sales space are definitely sales capacity.
Mm,
So being able to use scenarios to see, what's your productivity of your sales reps, kind of what's your overall capacity, and are you able to hit those finance revenue targets as a company? And also weaving in, workforce planning or those kind of to be hired piece of the puzzle as well. So it's not
mhm,
just current headcount, it's also the TBH, and collaborating with HR and recruiting. So that's sort of maybe the top use case. So I can show that really quickly. Second would be the finance collaboration with quotas. So
mm,
setting a top-down quota, understanding and breaking that down, by territory, by segment, all the way down to that rep level. And then looking at that rep level view for accounts, account scoring, account reassignments, how many new versus existing accounts does that rep have, really setting up those reps for success when you're
mhm.
setting that AE level quota. And then the third, I would say, is just more general, but modeling and setting up different KPIs.
Yeah.
So things like lifetime value, customer acquisition cost, your pipeline metrics, modeling out customer cohorts, just using that flexible platform to kind of see how you're tracking against those key metrics, and also the financial, P&L, cash flow, kind of those key financial metrics there as well. So those are sort of the top 3 use cases that I can walk you through really quickly.
Yeah, yeah, please. Quick question before we jump into it. So
Mhm.
is Pigment the place where we would build these plans out, or do we build the plans and then put them into Pigment for tracking?
Yeah, good question. You would actually build out the plans directly in Pigment
Gotcha.
and then track throughout the year kind of how you're doing.
Okay, okay.
And I can show for that last example, I was going to show a little bit of the modeling and kind of what that could look like in Pigment so you can get a feel for using the platform.
Yeah, let's check it out.
Perfect. So the landing page that you see here is kind of those use cases that I just walked through.
Mhm.
So with Pigment, yeah, each tile is a use case. You can kind of start anywhere. One thing to just point out before we jump in to the sales capacity view is that all of the data is shared in real time across the platform. So you can be updating like a detailed sales capacity or headcount plan, and that can roll into your financial model. Um, Everything is connected, so you're not kind of waiting or sending those spreadsheets back and forth
Gotcha.
across departments. And then one thing as well to point out, I know one of the questions is data integrations, and
Mhm.
that's something Pigment is really focused on having data integrations be as easy as possible. So we want business users to be able to set up and schedule those data flows coming into Pigment. So we
Yeah.
have native connectors that you can set up and schedule directly on the platform. So
Oh,
Salesforce is on that list. That's a very common one. NetSuite,
yeah.
Snowflake, Workday, all of those and a lot more are on our native connectors list for business users to kind of set up that data. And then what that looks like is then you have that transactional level data coming in, and you can use this to then set up and model out all of those plans that we just mentioned.
Hmm.
So this is like an example of your Salesforce transactional data. So all of your opportunities coming in.
Wow.
And then the little like tiles or circles you see here are the different like dimensions or ways you can kind of slice and dice or roll up that data. And these are totally flexible. So as your business grows and changes, if there's different ways you want to kind of slice and dice, or if there's new ways
Mhm.
you want to segment your business, you can just kind of add more columns or more attributes,
Okay.
and kind of have that, always reflect the way your company is organized.
Yeah.
And
Now,
then
usually
same.
when I
Oh, go
see
ahead.
a view like this, it's pulling fields directly from the source material. So am I right in assuming that every
Mhm.
column here is represented by a field on the opportunity object in Salesforce?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And so then you're just mapping where you want that to go in Pigment. So
Mhm.
yeah, if there's new fields you're setting up in Salesforce, that can then flow right into Pigment, and you can import all of that, in one go. So really
Gotcha.
easy on the data side. And then all the list values, if there's like a new segment
Hmm.
that you set up in Salesforce, that can flow in to Pigment as well. So you always
Got
have
it.
the latest view.
And then
Same thing.
changes here would be reflected in Salesforce and vice versa.
Exactly. And then same thing goes for like your HR ledger. This is an example coming from
Mhm.
Workday. But yeah, you can have your employee level view. This can flow into your sales productivity or your sales capacity modeling then as well.
Do you know of any other platform or tool or competitor that actually combines HR data from your HR system with CRM data from your CRM? Because this is new to me.
Yeah, this is definitely something we've been focused on and trying to use to differentiate ourselves in the space. Since we did, a lot of our customers are finance or workforce planning
Yep.
customers to start. And so then adding in that Salesforce or sales data was a natural next step for us. So I think it's definitely something new that we're seeing and something that is really resonating with people in the market because they need a single spot for kind of all of this data to
Yeah,
make changes to it.
definitely.
Awesome. Yeah. And then what this data kind of looks like rolled up is this sales productivity metrics grid. So you can start to see we rolled up those Salesforce opportunities. And this is that bookings, you have your actuals, and then we're starting to come up with that forecast.
Hmm.
You can also use it for, like I mentioned, those productivity metrics. So, what is our average deal size? What the win rate expands versus new logos?
Yep.
And all of this you can set up by those different, dimensions. These page selectors are just examples, but if you want to then maybe see or drill into specific segments or feeders in this example, you can do that. So really flexible and getting to that like granular level of data if you need it. And then you're also able to kind of set up and start tracking those as like KPIs that you'll see kind of different examples throughout.
Wow. And so I know that, Salesforce to some varying levels can accomplish some parts of this, but it is
Mhm.
quite annoying to set up. And so do you
Right.
see a lot of your clients now, instead of using the standard Salesforce dashboards and reporting,
Mhm.
moving that level of reporting into Pigment instead, and this serving as that hub?
Yeah, exactly. And then because another piece that Pigment offers is the scenario modeling.
Yeah.
So we really want this to be easy for users. You're able to activate the scenarios and it applies across your entire application. And you can even
Mm,
have shared scenarios like across your sales and finance models. So really easy for people to activate. You don't have to like rebuild any of your models or kind of
yep.
think about it beforehand. And then what this then allows you to do is you have that Salesforce transaction or kind of like base case data, but you can
Mm,
then start doing best case, worst case, and plan for that like range of outcomes and kind of see what that looks like. And I
yeah.
can actually show an example of that with sales capacity. So this next board is taking that those sales productivity metrics and that Salesforce data, and we're modeling out a long range view of our sales capacity. So we can take this, live forecast, that base data, and then best case, worst case, select those, and then I can see my outputs or kind of my key metrics for these scenarios
Yeah.
and um, model out the capacity. So we're looking at, existing FTEs, those to be hireds. And we're using, in this case, the quota as a driver. So we
Yep.
can say, what if we were able to, our reps are able to like close more deals or making them more productive, and what if we set a higher quota for them? What does that mean for our overall capacity? So I can update that driver and then see in real time, my different range of my capacity forecast, for example.
Got it.
And then if I scroll down, again, another use of those what if scenarios is for like ramping. So we have the to be hired. So this is a placeholder of your open recs or the AEs that
Got it.
you're planning to hire.
Yeah.
You can connect in with your recruiting system. So like Greenhouse, for example, is another native connector we have.
Wow.
And this can be that placeholder for those open recs, but you can incorporate those into your overall capacity and maybe look at, what if we were able to ramp faster? How does that kind of increase our capacity? If we need to freeze headcount, this has been common for a lot of our
Oh,
customers.
especially lately.
Yeah, exactly. So taking, all of these TBHs and, removing them from the plan, what does that look like? So being able to kind of pivot really quickly and see the impact. And then going all the way down to the rep level view. We have some kind of fun made up names here for our reps.
Yeah.
Alice Pickles is my favorite. But then you also have your like to be hireds with that ramping curve as well. So you get kind of that really
Oh,
granular view of capacity.
got it. Yeah. Wow. This is like a level of granularity I have not expected in the
Right,
market.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this I think gives RevOps teams a lot of ideas because this is just your capacity, but you could have like your compensation forecast or different, revenue forecast, kind of any
Yep.
sort of metric that you're trying to model out or forecast out at this most granular level, and then kind of roll it up or segment it from there.
Yeah, and I love the ability to kind of tinker and change because it's not going to be
Hmm.
exactly the numbers that you forecast. There has to be
Exactly.
some consideration of worst case or best case or
Hmm.
hiring freeze or a global
Exactly.
pandemic, for
Yeah.
example. So this kind of
Right.
allows you to look ahead and see, if everything goes wrong, where will
Hmm.
we be at? If everything goes really well, where will we be at? Which will be super valuable because I'm sure
Hmm.
most of your clients are venture backed and they're
Right.
reporting up to a board and the board needs to know if everything goes
Exactly.
terribly, where are we going to be?
Yeah, exactly. So you're able to sort of see that like full range of outcomes, all the way down to the this granular level too, which
Yeah.
is great. And one last thing to point out on this kind of view, so like anywhere where we have these, grids of data,
Yeah.
you can expand, and then the Excel users, I think, really love this view, but you have this like pivot option,
Oh,
and this is then now all of my I can kind of drag and drop and move things around. So like we're looking at things by rep right now. Maybe I want to roll things up by like position and see my AEs, with my positions, and maybe also by region, for example. So I'm able to kind of quickly see the roll ups and kind of, the groupings, and you can change these, swap these out as your company, changes and there's new ways you want to kind of roll things up.
yeah.
So really awesome way to kind of quickly, pivot or view the data. And then you can always save that for the board and have that then going forward.
Got it. And now, how accessible is this data once it's prepared? Am I paying for another seat every time someone else needs to see this data, or can I easily export it and show it to, maybe 100 people that will never log into Pigment or Salesforce?
Yeah. So this download as here, you're able
There
to,
you go.
export it into
Yep.
CSV or Excel. We do also have a two-way Google Sheets connector.
Mm.
Since we know a lot of our customers are currently using Google Sheets, and
Yep.
there are people that want to see the data or maybe make like one or two quick inputs, but don't need to like fully log into the tool.
Got it.
And so that's also an option to push and pull data, and you can have this exact grid view just in a Google Sheet.
Gotcha. Okay. And we've kind of covered this as we've been talking, but is there anything
Mhm.
that we haven't gone over yet that you would consider Pigment special sauce, or something that you love it when people ask you about?
Yes. Let me show the one other kind of KPI board um, that I wanted to touch on. So another thing with Pigment is the kind of pivoting in the modeling capabilities
Mhm.
that I really think make it accessible for RevOps users to kind of build and be able to model out in the platform.
Yeah.
So this example here is we're looking at your ARR and burn rate, and also a lot of our customers, like you mentioned, are startups or fast growing, so they're really focused on cash flow. So
Yep.
you can kind of see the net new ARR and things like cash runway and model out again with scenarios, best case, worst case, and have that sort of range for your cash flow. So that's and a great thing of Pigment. And then scrolling down to, we can look at the lifetime value and customer acquisition cost are key things that a lot of people are measuring. So if I want to kind of see, how are we getting to this lifetime value, CAC ratio, like where are those numbers coming from? I can kind of see that breakdown here, average revenue per account, gross margin. But if I want to click in, I can do anywhere where there's a calculation in Pigment, this dependency diagram. So this is a visual of the calculations, which is very helpful for, understanding that number. So I can actually see what's all flowing into my LTV calculation. And as I'm modeling out or building out formulas, this is updating in the background in real time for me. And so if I do need to like change things or maybe add a new metric or kind of check that data flow is correct, this is a great way to kind of model things out, double check, visualize, make sure it's good, and then kind of continue on with the next steps of the process.
Got it. Wow. Yeah, I love the strategic focus of a platform like this. You hear a lot from RevOps leaders that they're struggling and they're being put in the admin box, right?
Right.
Update this field, build this report. And the work like this is what you need to do to kind of elevate yourself into those strategic conversations.
Exactly. And then another example too is breaking down. So you have that, you're able to provide that LTV CAC ratio and see, we're under, 3 is typically that goal. So, and we're under 3s at that high level. So I can open this up and use that, pivot again, and maybe see like if I drag products down to my rows, I can get a feel for and see like, okay, product A is doing really well. It's kind of these other products that are, this is where the issue is. So maybe we need to look at like the customer acquisition costs or the hours we're spending on, selling these other products. So you're able to kind of, help your sales teams or finance teams, different parts of the business, kind of dig into problems and see maybe, where the issues are coming from. To make better decisions or model out different scenarios from there then too.
Got it. Yeah, that's amazing. I'm impressed.
Awesome. I love it.
And now one more question before we move on.
Sure.
I would imagine that most of the folks you work with are in kind of more mature to scaling sales organizations, ones that have multiple reps. And, in most cases, the leaders that you're working with already understand what metrics they care about. But do you provide any support for those people that, maybe they are founder sellers, maybe they are new into the function of revenue and sales, and they don't know what to track or why they should track it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked because we have been creating standard apps. And so really the idea there is that we're giving companies templates so they can have a starting point, have some inspiration, or understand maybe what metrics they should be tracking.
Yep.
So we have a what we call an ARR reporting standard app. And this view here is sort of those key metrics that we think, as a sales organization, you should be looking at it and tracking.
Nice.
It has, data populated. So that way, then you can kind of see, the end result. And then you can use it, plug your data in to kind of get a feel for those key metrics. So things like revenue, year-over-year growth, top customers by, net dollar retention, by average revenue. And then also things like churn, and making sure that if you have contracts coming up, you're kind of aware of those things.
Yep.
And then, cost of new ARR, revenue breakdown, revenue by type, different things like that to give people, like you're mentioning, a starting point. So they kind of have some inspiration or best practices to go off of.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Okay, so then the next kind of standard question we always ask is, what tools do you integrate with, or where would I go to learn what tools you integrate with?
Yeah, so I can show you, we have those native connectors that I mentioned,
Yep.
this screen here, and I can also send you more on our integration options as well and kind
Yeah.
of how to get this set up. But here's our list of those native connectors. So really what you're doing here is just setting up or making that initial connection of where you're pulling what report from Salesforce do you want to pull in, and then you're just
Mhm.
setting up that mapping like we talked about with those columns. So this is that full list. If I scroll down here, um, Greenhouse
Yeah.
and Workday are also common from that HR perspective,
Yep.
HubSpot as well.
Yep.
And then we just added Snowflake. So if you're kind of storing everything in one
Yeah.
spot, you can
Yep.
pull it all in one go, which is great.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's a strong mix of like CRMs, applicant
Hmm.
tracking, payroll, data management, and yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And this list, we're constantly kind of growing and adding to this list based on what our prospects and customers are using. So
Mhm.
it's been really cool to see, like, since I've started this, I think this list has like doubled. So this is a
Nice.
big like focus area for Pigment for sure.
Awesome. Awesome. All righty. And then next up, what does a Pigment user look like? And what type of business do they usually work at?
Sure. So we have a range of startups and public companies. Just
Mhm.
as an example, Gong and Algolia are two of our sales
Mhm.
capacity customers. And really, the like overall user, I would say, is someone in RevOps who is is a really strong like Excel user that usually
Yep.
translates well into Pigment, and really has like that initiative of they want to be the ones modeling things out, running scenarios, like
Yep.
having those conversations with finance, with HR, and kind of driving that collaboration. And it is meant to be sort of that intuitive, like business owned platform. So
Yep.
someone who's, willing to kind of put a little effort in up front to learn the like multi dimensionality, but then really take the platform to a lot of different places for their RevOps planning process.
Gotcha. And what if the company doesn't have RevOps formally defined as a function? What do you typically see then?
Yeah, good question. So we will typically see just different, if there's like finance users,
Mhm.
any, HR recruiting users. So it can be kind of any of those like Excel users that are modeling out in the Excel workbooks today can kind of pick up and adopt the platform as well.
Got it. Okay.
And
So next up is everyone's favorite question, which is, what is your pricing model?
sure.
Do you charge to implement?
Yes. So we just launched a brand new pricing model. So
Mhm.
I can give high level and then give contact info for specifics after.
Yeah.
But essentially, there's three options. So essential, professional, and enterprise are sort of the three tiers that we're going with.
Okay.
And there is a platform fee just to get the kind of the capacity or the storage space for you. And
Yep.
then we charge by user.
Okay.
So one user gets access to the entire platform. So really that benefits users, like I just mentioned, if they're, just more that analyst and work across finance, sales, HR, you have access to everything.
Hmm.
And we have then a few different user types that sort of full modeler access. And then we have the like more contributor who's just going to be, entering in numbers on boards,
Yep.
kind of a thing. So those different options there.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
then the implementations, do we charge for implementations was the
Yeah.
second part. So yes, we have a customer success package that you can add on to the software pricing.
Okay.
And that will include a, initial implementation fee and then the ongoing like customer success support.
Hmm.
And we have sort of two options. You can use the Pigment internal delivery team for the actual build, or we're just starting to get going with implementation partners
Okay.
and getting them up and running so they can also implement as well. So two options there for the implementation.
Got it. So it could be internal, could be external. If you have a RevOps consultant that you trust, maybe they're
Exactly.
handling it, but you can
Right.
kind of put people forward as needed.
Yeah. And then one thing also to point out there is that we like to take a co-build approach.
Yeah.
So our team will work with the kind of key modelers or users at the company so they can learn the platform and for that first use case build out. And really what that allows them to do is get up to speed on the platform. And then maybe after that first use case, they're then the ones building out future use cases
Yep.
or changing or enhancing the models kind of as things need to be changed.
Yeah. You're teaching them to fish.
Exactly. Yeah. Better way to say it. There you go.
And then how long does it take from signed contract to I'm using this in a way that's providing value every day?
Yeah, it really depends on the use case, but we typically say a range of like, 8 to 16 weeks.
Okay.
It is weeks, not, months and months. So the way you're able to kind of quickly model things out on the platform really lends itself well to those quicker, iterative implementations.
Hmm.
And that's, by, per use case. So that might be like your sales capacity as your starting point, and
Yeah.
then maybe you do, quota, account segmentation, or kind of wherever you want to take it from there.
Gotcha. Okay. So then that's kind of what ongoing support looks like then, as you have a new forecasting project or a new
Mhm.
reporting project, then you can
Exactly.
ask the Pigment team for help, but hopefully that team has armed the client with everything
Ex-
they need to
Exactly.
self-serve. Okay.
Exactly. And so typically our customer success team will do, at least at a minimum, like a monthly check-in, just,
Hmm.
hey, how's it going? What are you thinking next?
Hmm.
Can we help provide, maybe new standard apps or new things that are kind of launched on the platform? And then we do also have a Pigment community. So that is where we're trying to grow the support kind of like self-service.
Yep.
So you can go on and see, how do I write out these different functions? People can ask questions, kind of get different users kind of sharing things back and forth as well.
Nice. Yeah, that's always a good idea. It's like you
Yeah.
rely on the large group of people that are already using your service. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. So that's great. And then we have, the actual support team. So if there's like
Hmm.
technical things that pop up, they're able to, you can log tickets, they can respond. That's typically like
Yeah,
less than a day turnaround too. So quick response there, which is great.
got it. All righty. So we have reached the end of our scripted questions with the last one,
Awesome.
which is what does success look like? And how long does it take to get there? Feel free to use real life examples as you can.
Sure, sure. So I think success on the Pigment platform is really driving like high user adoption. So
Mhm.
it's a tool that we want it to be, intuitive and business users can truly use. And so the focus on kind of that UI UX and the easy modeling
Yeah.
really helps with that. Quotas and
Mhm.
that rep level quota. They're looking at their sales pipeline and modeling out their sales capacity and sales productivity.
Mhm.
Same thing with Uberall and Gong are also using Pigment for sales capacity planning. And those implementations are typically around that 12-week mark to
Yep.
get them up and running using that use case.
Got it. All right. Well, Aaron, thank you for your time.
No
I
problem.
appreciate you spending it with us. What is the best way to contact you? And then what is also the best way to learn more about Pigment?
Yes. So let me just share our contact information. This
There it
would
is.
be our contact information, and the best way to learn about Pigment would be gopigment.com, and that can link you to kind of everything you need to know about the platform, our customers. And then there's also a link to that community that I mentioned right at the
Nice.
bottom here for learning more about kind of more specifics on modeling on the platform, things like that. So definitely reach out. Hope you guys enjoyed the demo today.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.